All right, everybody, and welcome to the 9 Years podcast. I'm Nick Draper. I'm joined by the face of the BBC Sport website, Stuart Deacons, and thank you very much for downloading and listening to the show this week. Don't really know what we're going to talk about this week, Stu, to be honest with you. The world has gone mad. We do at least have one game of football to talk about, but I am sensing, and we mentioned this last week, an increasing number of people who are switching off from the beautiful game under current circumstances. There is one element that is not helping with the elite level, which I'll talk about in a moment. But it has become a real struggle. And now we're in the situation where we're back into a national lockdown, no end in sight for this. FA Cup is just not worth going ahead with, really, because teams just can't play their fixtures, and then they're just going to have to exit themselves from the competition, games being postponed left, right and centre, and concerns I see in the newspaper today, Stu. Actually, this is a key point. Well, I'll come back to that. Let's start with the original one of fans disengaging from games. It's so hard when you can't physically attend matches when you're used to doing so, especially at a club like ours. It's very difficult to get yourself motivated for it. And motivation is an increasing problem just generally for people in lockdown at the moment, let alone trying to follow the fortunes of a football club, players of which, no number of them, nobody has actually seen play live for us, which is also very difficult.
Yeah, you're right. I think, Joe, I think early on, I think it was a little bit of a sort of a novelty thing. We'd had the lockdown since March, hadn't we? So, the season had wrapped up on points per game. And then, the Premiership obviously done their project football thing, whatever everything was, return. And then, restart. Of course, we were, restart. And then, of course, we were, the other leagues were allowed to start League One and League Two. So I think it was really welcome at the time. And I think we just accepted that iFollow and that sort of remote sort of watching games was going to be. But I think we always had that caveat that we knew, October was the sort of, we thought it might be games, and then of course it dragged. And I think we're just now at the stage where we're just a bit worn out of it. It's not enjoyable. You know me, I love my football, but I'm just not enjoying it. I was actually thinking the other day, I think I've only seriously cheered one goal. And I remember, I can't remember now what it was, because I remember my wife. No, it was I swear it was an equaliser. But basically, I remember I shouted. It might have been a midweek.
Probably it might have been Peterborough or the Doncaster. It'll be one of those.
It might have been a Doncaster. I was at the Peterborough game, and right. You don't really celebrate, because if you do, look like Muppet, because there's no one there. But I remember my wife going, she jumped, and I was like, I think I'll crack it. I never celebrate goals. It's more of a sometimes, because I know the goal's going to come beforehand, because I'm behind on iFollow. Nothing worse when you see it come up. Saying, we scored. And you know what I mean? It's just, it's not excitable. Yeah. I hear the excuse. I hear people say, it's good for mental health. I don't actually think that's the case now, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's more difficult for League One, League Two, National League fans, because they're used to going to games. I think if you're a Premier League fan and an armchair fan, I think it's no different. So there's two levels of football, isn't there? You have the Premier League fan that would go, look, this is great. But us fans that are used to going to games and a match day experience and that, it's not fun. It's not.
No, and the reason that football is proceeding is not because of mental health reasons. It's for financial reasons. And that was echoed in the newspaper. Well, this is going out Friday, isn't it? So this is Thursday. The article was in the newspaper about the FA's lost income, lost revenue from televised games that won't be happening, be it from domestic or international broadcasters that are just refusing to pay money because they're not getting games as they're being cancelled. Yep. That's why they're pushing all this through. It's because there's so much money invested in the TV contracts. The game at that level can't do without it, can't pay the wages of their players. We've said for ever and a day that the finances involved at the top flight are insane. Look, it's capitalist society. That's the way it goes. But I mean, sometimes you just have to accept that perhaps you're going to take a hit sometimes. And I don't see why football is immune to this. Like I've said long before, this is what winds me up. Football lives in its own little world, and it gets treated differently. And I've had enough of it now, to be honest. I think the people that are losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods, reports of people that have committed suicide in the past 9 months because they've lost businesses, which have lost or led to them losing other things in their lives. They've seen no other way out. But football, no, football's fine. You carry on. Mezit, you keep getting your £300,000 a week or whatever it is. It's just a wind.
Yeah. But do you remember I was chatting to you about that, wasn't I? I was sort of saying, people are still, it's like the football's in a different universe. You can still, and don't get me wrong, if it's an entertainment, that's fine. But I wouldn't class much of it entertaining in terms of that. Yes, it was money. But then it didn't stop the Premier League Championship club still spending the money as if it was coming in. There was nothing of them going, well, do you know what? We might just save for a rainy day just in case. And then the excuse that was brought out was that, well, the Premier League is paid for, it's watched all around the world because it's an excellent product and it has the best players. I'm like, yes, but if you don't have the money, then you can't pay it. So I don't have any sympathy for these clubs that are saying we're losing X, Y, Z money because you haven't budgeted. And the Championship clubs are getting found out. We haven't seen it yet through League One, although we see Wigan, but that was a different situation. But I don't even think we've seen the actual trouble. I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg of the trouble in League One and League Two. A lot of stuff is going to be a little bit further down the line. We're surviving because of grants. We're surviving because the solidarity payments were paid in advance. No guarantee that we can get that in advance. And if you do, when's that? That's going to start. I think it's why I've been really frustrated in seeing some Wimbledon fans sort of social media going, who are we going to buy? Who are we going to buy? I'm like, we shouldn't even be doing anything. Like, we have no idea when fans are going to return. We have no idea what the finances are going to be like next year. We don't even know when the fans come back next season of what ticket prices we can pay because people are going to have less money. There's no doubt about that. Some have no money, some have no property. It's just, I feel like football in a way has done that to fans though, because football was carried on as if it doesn't affect them. So people look at football and go, well, that's right, they can spend money, can't they? We must have it. It's bad and it's not clever.
But that's also the argument with many things. We won't get into it now, where people just go, well, we just pay for this and source it this way and whatever, and just think there's an endless supply of money to correct these problems, which there isn't. The tip of the iceberg you mentioned, I don't think we've seen the tip of the iceberg at all into the damage that this can cause, not just for lower league football clubs, but generally nationwide for society. I think I said all along, Stu, I said 2021 will be a worse year than 2020. The first week of that has bore that prediction out, and it's only going to get worse from here. So on that cheery message, I shall do what I did say in the intro as well, something else that isn't helping elite level football. Not that I'm watching it, but of course, social media. Oh my good God, Stu, my battles with Twitter. I've got to sort this out. I've got to get on top of myself because this is the problem. This is the problem when you sat basically indoors. For hours, days on end, you get caught into these things. I need to stop it. I need to work really hard on that one. But I do notice things such as things that are ruining the game at the elite level. VAR still continuing. Not that it matters to me really in terms of this season because I've zoned out from it. But when I saw the Brentford disallowed goal on social media from their semi-final the other day because of VAR, I thought, what are we doing? What is the point? Honestly, do you know what? Referees make bad decisions. Players make bad decisions. Get over it. It's part of being human. Why are we so intent on dehumanizing everything? I just can't get my head around this. It's like, just don't want a human interaction. I could go on a massive rant about this, but you're seeing it now. It's like, don't leave your home. You can have everything delivered to you. We'll get drones to do it. Don't open the schools. Oh my God, no, don't do that. Jesus. You can do it online. No, you can't do it online. I just think, oh man. So VAR, just delete referees and just have robots doing it. I don't understand it. I don't think people understand what that leads to. It's almost like all these novels, all these great works of fiction down the years, first thing is education over the past 30 years has not been good enough. So people haven't read these novels, which is a real problem. But then following that, people read these novels as if they're things that we should be aspiring to. No, we don't aspire to Brave New World. We don't aspire to 1984. We don't aspire to Fahrenheit 451. And yet everywhere I look, people are champing on the bit for this to happen. Infuriating. Anyway, VAR just needs to fuck off.
You know what? No, this makes you chuckle is because we've already gone little ways down to sort of VAR already, didn't we? When we had it across the goal line, so we had the buzzer, didn't we, and that sort of thing. So we had something, but they were factual. Even now, you could argue though, if it's not over the line, then it's also the offside is being used that way. But that's a different argument. But a lot of commentators, sports personalities were actually wanting VAR to come in. I remember them championing it, saying, and let's be fair, the reason it come in is because it was money. Yeah, it was money. It's so important now for a difference between finishing 6th and finishing 7th in the Premier League could be £1 million now. So they wanted these decisions to be so definite, but now they're getting. And I also said to you, I hate being right all the time because I normally am, but like I remember saying to you that people won't celebrate goals because they won't want to look at they don't want to look at div. That's starting to happen now. If you look at it now, people are celebrating and actually looking at the lines when no, they're not going to put a flag up, and then all of a sudden it's like they don't tend to celebrate in that sort of exuberant way anymore because they look damn stupid. For me, I don't mind. I think it's hilarious because the Premier League, for me, has just gone so into a fantasy world. I actually find it really funny when goals get disallowed and stuff. Would I like it in my own league? No, I think it's crazy. Would it? I don't think it'll even be. I don't even think it'll be stopped. But I tell you the thing. The problem with VAR is it's used so differently in every league. The interpretation of it is different, and that's the problem.
Is there not also a problem though when you look at the thing like the Brentford one and
I haven't
many?
Seen that, to be fair.
Okay, you've seen very similar ones though over the past year or so, where it's an offside decision, and they're measuring lines. They're drawing lines on the pitch to measure whether an elbow is ahead of. Just why?
And it's taken so long as well, isn't it?
It takes a long time, but also like common sense would tell you in those situations whether or not someone's getting an advantage or not, where they clearly are not getting an advantage. But they black and this is what I mean about dehumanizing things. You're eliminating the application of common sense. And once you make everything and that's another problem with society at the moment. Everything is binary, everything is black and white. There's no nuance, there's no nothing. And once you apply that to everything, you just take any joy, you suck joy out of life. Look how divided everyone is right now because every single issue is an extreme position on either side. There's no conversation where you're finding a middle ground to talk and discuss things through. It's just like, you say this, that means you're a horrible person and you're whatever it is. And if you say that, then you're just an idiot, doesn't understand how it works. Anyway, I just don't see the point of it. I don't see what maybe that is humans just want to kill themselves. Maybe that's what it is.
I think the thing with VAR, I get confused about, and also even like the substitute rules. There's so many different rules for whatever league you play in or whatever cup you play in. So VAR is used in one competition; it's used not used in League One. And also, obviously, you listen to quite a lot of radio, so I do now. Obviously, work from home, and now the commentators and the pundits are now upset because they've got nothing to. They moan about VAR now rather than moaning about. Do you think he was offside a little bit? Those are things that we always should chat at half time, didn't we? And we're quite lucky in a way.
But that was part of it. That's part of the experience. That's the whole point.
Exactly. You go home and you think, crikey, that was miles offside. I didn't think that. Because what you saw at the time, maybe, it didn't reflect what you saw on TV. But you'll have a good discussion about it. And we still have that. I suppose we're lucky in a way. If we get back to grounds next season, we won't have VAR because they won't. It costs too much money down in League One and League Two. So we can actually still enjoy the beautiful game as it was and laugh at VAR in the Premier League because the leagues now are so different. It's unbelievable. VAR makes such a different game than what we see in League One. It's like having two different sports. It's like having rugby league and rugby union.
Well, league is more entertaining than union, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think I'd add to this is the games, like we said there, the whole discussion as fans of decisions and things that happen in games, you have a chat about it. And that's part, like I said, that's part of the whole thing. That's part of the whole package. That's part of the entertainment. That's what we get out of it. It is a sport that has made lots and lots of people very, very, very rich. And the reason they're very, very rich is because the fans are there giving their money, taking part, creating the atmosphere around it, which has made it so popular. And the elements of tribalism and all that goes into it. But it's now the people that are inside the game, they they don't give a shit about the fans. They can say what they like. Pep Guardiola does not give a flying fuck about any of the Manchester City fans, but he wants all these things tailored. Jurgen Klopp is the same. All of them at the elite level, they all want things tailored to them. Like even the stupid things like the substitute rules, which is nonsense. I know we play too many games. Yeah, you play too many games because that's why you're getting paid millions and millions of pounds. Like they've got no concept of how this whole system works, and yet they want to dictate to fans what the game should look like. And I just think there has to come a time when fans, at some point, the fans just got to say, no, enough of this, no. And lots of people have walked away and gone away. And I'm so close to that point if I'm not already there. And it's because I suppose also, despite the fact we're in lockdown and everything else, I mean, I've realised I can quite happily live without football every week.
I think you're right. And, I think people are walking. I watched the game out of habit, but I think I said to you the other day, I sometimes don't see the start of the game. I sometimes look at something else whilst the game's on. Half time, I go and do something, and I sometimes forget that the game's restarted and miss the first 10 minutes. And I would never have done that. I stopped going to away games years ago, but I'd always be like, I need to get back to the start of it and all that side of it. But now it's just like, and I do you know what? The Lincoln goal went in against us, and I did the same for Crewe. And I laughed at the goals. I'm laughing at us conceding goals. That shows you how. I don't know what it shows you. I suppose half of me thinks this league isn't going to finish.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, we can just have a laugh, but I look at the goals and I laugh my head off.
But it's because you're not invested in the same way.
Yeah, maybe it is. Like Paul Kay makes a mistake. Okay, he makes a mistake. I laughed about it because I laughed at the stupidity of it. Yeah. And you've got a game that's all about fans and there's no one there.
Exactly.
So you're watching a game that So I'll give you an example. We equalise against Lincoln. I lay money. If there's fans in the ground, we do not concede that late goal because your fans drive you.
Yeah.
Your players feed off that. And I've spoken to many players and they just can't. The tempo's not there, and that. So we're sort of like slaughtering players sometimes, and you've got to. I suppose it's easy for you and I to say, but that atmosphere in the ground is just.
Well, the one time I have attended a game this season, it felt like a training exercise.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would have been the same.
It's for points and.
Well, yeah.
It's getting relegated is a massive thing, but you wouldn't believe that in a game, would you? And that's why I find it difficult to. I find it difficult to have a go at players for having a bad season because do you know what? This is not a season like any other season.
No.
And that's not giving them excuses. That's just being honest with you. Unless you've been to a game and been fortunate enough to be to a game, the atmosphere is absolutely terrible. And some of these players, they need that drive.
The season is just a bit of a mess now.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't, I'm afraid. Yes, you're right. At the end of it, Stu, we might well be relegated into League Two. This is a serious proposition or possibility of this happening. But as you say, it just doesn't feel like it. It's like a bit of a shrug of his shoulders and go, oh, well, that's what it is. That said, as we've said on social media, and we've had this talk about people on social media, why is it that people don't understand that 4 clubs get relegated? And there is absolutely no reason why one of those clubs shouldn't be us. It would not be horrendously underperforming of our club, given our size and budget and everything like that. And blimey, let alone if people saw how skeletal our operation is away from the pitch, you'd be like, yeah, you wouldn't even, no fan around the country would look at that and go, what a shock. They should have been in the playoffs. They should have been safe. What's gone wrong there? You'd just be like, no, okay, fair enough. It happens. 4 teams get relegated every year.
Do you know what? It's a really good point. It's a really good point, actually, because we've gone from Kingsmeadow to Plough Lane with less staff. At Plough Lane, we left at Kingsmeadow.
Fewer staff, yeah.
Which makes, but I think, we sometimes forget that. We're saying that our recruitment's not been great. Well, look at our recruitment team. It is basically Glyn and Nick Dawes, and probably Ashley Bayes going out and helping, and Mark Robinson. So now people are saying, maybe the players are not good enough. Well, we are recruiting. We're recruiting one arm behind my back. I heard someone say, "What about a Peterborough model?" Peterborough needs money. It needs money to invest first, and they can show a very clear journey of where they're going to go to. We're not there yet. We've got our kids coming through, but they're being blunt. They're being put into the team well too early. Zach Robinson. I keep hearing Zach Robinson's going to be the next whatever player. It's a big ask. If I could go back to Tyler Burley and go, we said he was going to be the next star. Where is he now? Mill reserves. So where we are, 4 teams get relegated. If that's one of us, great. Sorry, not great. That's the way it goes. Yeah. What I would say, though, I do worry. My biggest worry is that there's going to be legal complications at the end of the season, because I can see all the games bottlenecking. Yeah. We could argue now we've failed to play Wigan twice now. If Wigan get a takeover done any day now, they can go out and buy. So we now have a team that's totally different to what every other team's played.
Yeah,
we could have teams going out of business. We could have teams playing 2 or 3 or 4 games a week. We could have Accrington playing 3 or 4 games a week. So these teams, even though we're playing, they're big rewards and also big losses. If a team is relegated to League 2 now, that's probably a bigger relegation than it was last season because of finances. However, if you get into the Championship now with the salary cap, you go from having a salary cap of 2.5 million to having a salary cap of 18 million. So if you get into the Championship now, then you're fixed, because if you come down into League 1, you'll get back up because the difference is so big.
Mm. As long as when you get up to the Championship, you're sensible and don't start chucking money around and doing silly things. And
we moaned about Wickham all the time, didn't we? But hey, look, they've kept a very, you have to applaud them. They haven't gone for the big money. They've been sensible.
Yeah, but in fairness as well to Wickham, they've also got some good examples to follow. If you look at the likes of Rotherham and Doncaster, who have yo-yoed a bit down the years, and they've just been kept sensible and kept on what, from the outside at least, looks a pretty even keel, whereas perhaps others haven't quite been so sensible in the past. Although, of course, there are other issues with certain clubs, Coventry and people like that, for example, who've run into financial difficulties. Think about 10 years ago, all the problems Plymouth had when they dropped out of the Championship. But anyway, another conversation for another day. I was just looking at the league table, Stu. We are 2 points above the relegation zone. We are in 20th place. Just looking down the league, Fleetwood Town, I see that Joe Barton has left, and Ched Evans had left a few weeks ago as well, so don't know what's going on there. Also, if I'm not going to lie to you, I don't really care what's happening at Fleetwood Town. They will be a club that I don't think are sustainable in any long-term sense, and they will probably end up doing what Crawley did, which is go back down into League 2 and hover around there forever and ever. It is Rochdale who occupy the final relegation place at the moment. They are 2 points behind us with 2 games in hand, which isn't helpful. We have lost 3 in a row. We've lost 4 of the last 5. And on Saturday, we lost to Lincoln, who are top of the league. But I have seen the goals. We'll start with the positive. Ollie Palmer got his first goal for us.
Yeah.
With a fine back post header from a good cross from Shane McLaughlin, for those people that have been watching week in, week out, continuing to get very, very good reviews, potentially in the conversation for Player of the Year, I imagine, when it comes to that. But it's good to see Ollie Palmer. Let's start with the positive. Good to see Ollie Palmer get off the mark. He has had his critics.
Yeah, big time, because when he came, there was a lot of expectation. That's, big number, big number 9, Plough Lane. People talking about the old number 9s. We know Plough Lane of Fashion U and stuff, which I get because the hype around the new ground. I totally get that. But he had a big recovery to do from his Crawley end of season with Crawley, and I don't think it went as planned. So he's obviously, sometimes when you're coming back, you do have little sort of breakdowns and stuff like that. But hey, look, do you know what? From the size, he's a big man. Do you know what I mean? Like 6 foot, whatever. He's lost a lot of weight, so he's obviously going through the training now. From what I've seen, I've been happy, with his game. I think it's very difficult. We played Ryan Longman and Joe Piggott, which is a different style. They're not target men by any stretch. And now we brought Ollie Palmer in. It's a different way, and Ollie Palmer's a different player. But if he plays to his strength, look at the great ball in by McLaughlin, and yeah, once the ball comes in, Palmer was all over that. But we need service, and the problem is he's coming in now and playing 90 minutes, but the team's not playing as well as it was a couple of months ago. If he was fit and playing in that team, I think we see a lot more goals from him. But yeah, he's getting a bit of a hard time at the moment. I get that, but it needs games. It needs games. The good thing about this break is that we get on the training bench. What I saw against Lincoln was I noticed that we were, in terms of pattern and play and structure, we were a lot better in the 3-5-2. One of the things we've struggled probably since Crawley, Barrow, is getting our wing backs, so getting Shane McLaughlin and Steve Seddon, who's obviously gone back now. But once we get them forward, then our 3-5-2 works. If we don't get possession and we don't move up the pitch, we become a 5-4-1 and we get isolated. So what I did see, you notice in that first half, Shane McLaughlin got forward quite a lot, which then meant, we could attack and look dangerous. The late goal was a mistake. I think we were well worthy of a draw. But I think on the training, we have to remember we don't have the best players, but what we don't, in terms of what we make up from having the best players, is we get them on the training pitch and we get them organised. He hasn't had that option. He does now, so let's hope he will see a change.
Yeah, the mistake, as you mentioned, for the winning goal, Paul Canby just doesn't clear his lines. See his frustration afterwards.
Yeah, he hasn't got to be told, has he? Is that mental tiredness?
Probably.
We also have to remember we don't actually know the players, and there's a lot of rumours going around. But I've heard people say, "Well, actually, the team we played against Lincoln that wasn't that bad. Actually, it was quite a strong team, and we had some players on the bench. We actually don't know how COVID has hit the players. We don't actually know, are they 100% fit? We know that long COVID can hit some players. Newcastle has some problems with that, haven't they? So we actually don't know how fit these players were. Was Paul K one of the ones that had COVID and a bit fatigued? We don't. Do you know what I mean? There's so many things we don't know. And that's not making an excuse for him because it's an error. But if he tried to do that again, he probably won't do that again for another 20 or 30 chances. And Lincoln punished us, which everyone seems to punish us at the moment, don't they?
Well, yeah, this is the thing. We have this recurring nightmare of individual errors that we get punished for, and we don't seem to have the same luck going in the opposite direction, although you could argue the Great Escape was helped on that score. But you mentioned, yes, the COVID outbreak, we did ask, and there was a lot of talk that the game be postponed, and the league said no, and people have said that there's people don't feel there's been consistency because other clubs have had games postponed for fewer cases and things like that. I think there's some query as to whether we requested a postponement because of lack of players, whereas other clubs, I don't know. There's other clubs just said, or I don't know, there's some real semantic difference in what happened.
Yeah, I think from what I understand, yes, we did ask for the game to be postponed, so we did go to the EFL and they refused. I think we stitched ourselves up because I think after Sunderland, we then did a COVID test. So we did an early COVID test. And I think I'm not totally sure, but I think because we did that and we knew the players that were injured, we knew the players that were affected and they were isolated early, the EFL then took it upon themselves that actually we knew who was fit. We knew we'd isolated the players that weren't able to play, and we had enough players to play. I think where the other ones are being called off is when they get an outbreak and they haven't been able to isolate. They don't know who their players are that are COVID positive. So actually, they say, look, we can't play. We've got to isolate everybody. So I think we stitched ourselves up by doing the right thing. And if you remember, that happened to Leyton Orient. Do you remember Leyton Orient against Tottenham in the Cup?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it stitched them up as well, didn't it? So It's like one of those things. It's like you stitch yourself up by doing the right thing, because there's no doubt that the Lincoln result would have been better for us. It would have been better for us to play later on in the season. No doubt about that. Lincoln at the top. We had a very inexperienced bench, and that makes a lot of the difference now in this league when you've got 5 substitutes that you can use. So there definitely was a disadvantage. But the irony was Wigan then got their game called off, which is the second time it's been called off this season. And we didn't have a break. But this is why I think there's going to be a problem going on the season. I was chatting with some people that I was going, later on in the season, we could end up people deliberately having, and I know it sounds sick, deliberately having COVID situations to avoid playing games, big games, like top of the table clashes. And also, the EFL are going to investigate every game, apparently, that's been called off. There's 50 games already been called off in the EFL this season.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So how are they going to do that? And if they did that, could you, for argument's sake, if they come back to us and said, well, the Doncaster game, actually, that was your fault. You actually now, your fault. And actually, the game you were supposed to play after that, which was, I can't feel what it was now. It might have been a Wigan game, actually, mightn't it? I think, back then.
Yeah, could be.
So that game called off, actually, you shouldn't have called it off because that's your fault and you now lose the points. It could happen. You know what the EFL are like. And this is why I think it's dangerous. The longer you leave a season to go, the bigger problems you... Look at what happened last season with Peterborough and Tranmere, and we're just going down that route again. And the only reason is because of money.
Isn't it everything at the end of the day? Doesn't everything come back to money?
Yeah, it does. We're finding that out, aren't we? We're sending people into dangerous... we're just... some people that can afford to not... Some people that can afford to go on furlough, some people that can work from home, some that have no choice. They have to go to their job, key workers. It's all over the place, isn't it? And I suppose I love my football, but it ain't the most important thing for me at the moment. And I hate, for me, I hate the way it's actually being shown it's the most important thing. It's just not. It's just not.
No, not by a long stretch. Sorry, I was just trying to find the exact wording of the request. I couldn't find it.
But every statement's the same, near enough, isn't it?
Say again, sorry.
Every statement that comes out from the Football League is the same. And we, of course, had the Tranmere situation where it was postponed an hour before the game. So we let Tranmere travel across the country through all Tier 4 at that time. Yeah, it'd been Tier 4, wouldn't it? We allowed them to travel on a coach, get to the game, and they have to... It's so stupid. And these players, they all have families.
Yes. Imagine travelling outside of your tier when you're not allowed to. Who would do such a thing like that? But let's not go down that route just yet with certain famous people. I would say we see what happens next, but we've not got a game now until the 16th. So we can't do that.
The Papa John game, don't we?
What? I'm not bothering it. No,
I know you don't like that. I know you don't like that picture, and I have the same sentiments around it. But actually, when money, and we're talking about money now, the money available could be helpful. We have no idea. We have no idea, Nick, do we? Like, this is my biggest worry at the moment. We had the debentures, we had the non-refundable season tickets, which helped us massively. We don't have them next season.
No.
At this time, if say what I'm saying, and I'm just saying this, it doesn't go to plan, and we actually don't start the season on time, and the club go, we want to do non-refundable season tickets again, would the same people do it again?
No.
So we just have to be careful, and that's why I'm saying to you, I know we hate the competition, but it might be a little bit of financial boost that we need. It's not loads of money, but it's better than a slap in the face, isn't it?
Wonder where you're going with that one for a second.
Polite in a family show.
Well, I think we threw that. Well, no, that went out the window very early this week, and I do apologise for that. Although, really, I don't. Bristol Rovers apparently on Tuesday. We'll ignore that though, because even though I know what you're saying, just travelling, got the expense of travelling all the way down to Bristol to play this game. Just seems...
Well, that's the thing as well, isn't it? That's the thing. It's an expense.
Yeah, it is. It's expense just to get to
spending money when you've got no money coming in. That doesn't sound to me like an essential business.
No, I'll be interested to ask other players if they prefer to be playing on a Tuesday night rather than being in training. Well, I imagine they'll get when I don't know what their situation is now. Maybe we'll ask them. Stu, we have a chance to ask them in the coming days.
Yeah, good link. I like that. So we are. So we basically just an idea. We thought, you know what, we're not going to potentially be back in the ground this season. I think that's very highly likely. And we thought it'd be a good idea just to get a sort of like meet some of the players that we've not maybe met and ask questions, do a live. So we've got, so if you're listening to the podcast on Friday morning, so tonight at 7:30 start, we have 6 players joining us in groups of 2. starting off with this chess one. Starting off with Andy Hartigan,
otherwise known as pairs.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what.
Groups of two.
I know, groups of two. We're pairing them up. Andy Hartigan and Andy Woodyard are going to start us off. Then we've got Ethan Chislett and Jack Redoni. We had to move Jack Redoni. We did have him at the later slot, but Mark Robinson, who was organising it for me, said I've got to be careful with his bedtime. So we got him on the earlier one at 8:15. 8:15? Yeah, 8:15. And then at 9:00, we have the strike partnership of Ollie Palmer and Joe Pigott. So really looking forward to it. I think we all need a bit of a laugh, and that was the idea of it. The idea was the players, we chat to players. The players miss the fans. They miss that connection massively. So this is a way of doing it on a Friday night, lockdown, no one's going out. Questions, sensible questions, bit of fun, maybe some games. Let's see how we go. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're lucky, we're hosting it. But I think it actually will be a good laugh. I think we all need a bit of... We might not, you're right, we might not be enjoying the football. However, we enjoy the game, and that's what we're going to be talking about with them.
And you say we enjoyed the game. Stu, we got a new game for the podcast.
I was wondering what game you're going to do. I'm worried now.
New year, new game. I don't have a name for it. I did have a name for it until I realised that player has now left. So it doesn't really work. So I've decided to call it... Well, I don't have a name for it. I was going to go for Phoebe Ball, but I thought no. We should maybe ask the listeners what they think we should call this game. Originally, it was going to be called Steve Said on This Day. But he's gone back to Birmingham, so it doesn't really work. And I can't think of another player that ends with on. There might Zach Robinson this day. There you go. Zach Robinson this day. There we go. Mark Robinson this day. Anyway, whatever we decide, it's on this day. I'm going to ask you some questions about a game that we played on this date in a previous year. And this podcast is being released on the 8th of January. Stu, do you remember who we played on the 8th of January in the year 2000? This is really one of the questions, really.
2000, so that would have been Premier League, when it was still in the Premier League then, weren't we? 8th of January, we probably played... I'm going to go for Watford.
No, it wasn't Watford. Sadly, that year... we didn't play Watford in the Premier League. We'd already had our 2 games with Watford in the Premier League that season. They were before Christmas.
I thought you might have picked a Watford one.
I would have loved to. No, this is not a particularly fond memory. Stu, what normally happens early January?
Early January? We lose?
Well, yes.
Lose players?
What sort of fixtures happen normally?
Oh, you mean local derbies?
No. Well, it was, but that's coincidental.
You've lost me. Going back into the Premier League, what do we happen in the new year?
Every year there's a certain type of fixture that comes up in the first week of January.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm being a divvy. FA Cup.
FA Cup, yes. Now, this year it was a little bit different. They brought the FA Cup forward. So this was actually the FA Cup 4th round. Do you remember who we played that year in the FA Cup 4th round?
I haven't got a clue.
You will kick yourself because you know this is a very famous occasion. It was a local derby.
In 2000, local derby. Millwall?
No.
Charlton Palace?
No.
How local was it?
More local than any of those 3. Not at the time in terms of where we were playing our games, but in terms of the town of Wimbledon, much more local than any of those.
Chelsea?
No, nearly.
Fulham?
There we go.
The 3-0 defeat.
There we go.
Damien Francis playing at left back or something.
Well, that was one of my questions. Yeah, that was going to be my first question. Who played left back that day?
It's really weird, right? I don't always remember. This game's going to be terrible for me because I'm not good on remembering what I did yesterday. But I remember that game because it felt like the little Fulham that I knew when I used to go and watch them in the first round of the FA Cup because they were skint. They were playing 5-a-side tournaments to get money in. All of a sudden, become the big boys and battered us and actually laughed in our faces. I can't forget that.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember who scored for them that day?
No, not off top.
It was 2 goals from Wayne Collins And that's sandwiched a goal by which former Republic of Ireland international?
Who played for Fulham?
Yep.
I'm trying to think who was at Fulham at the time.
I think he went on to play for Liverpool.
That wasn't Robbie Keane, was it? No, he wasn't. He didn't play for them. I don't know.
No. Steve Finnan. And he did go on to play for Liverpool.
He was there for ages, wasn't he, Steve Finnan?
Yeah, he was. He scored the second goal. Who was the Fulham manager at the time?
Wasn't it Keegan at that time?
No, he'd gone by then.
It wasn't Keegan. Oh. Kit Simons was there, wasn't he? It wasn't him. Keegan.
I'll give you a clue. If your airplane, if it is about to crash, what might you need to do to try and avoid too bad an injury, if not death?
Jump out.
Not jump. No. Yeah. Which man? Do you know a manager called Dave Jump Out?
You would have to evacuate. I don't know. Your cryptic things make no more. I swear this game's terrible just to make me look a div. Doesn't take much.
Here's a tricky clue. The answer was Paul Bracewell. You would need to brace well if you're going to...
I forgot he managed them, actually.
Yeah.
Because they went through quite a lot of managers, didn't they?
They did. Keegan Tagana came after this.
Tagana I was thinking about, but I thought he was a bit later.
Yeah, he was the following year when they got promoted.
Even Coleman went there, didn't he? Coleman.
Chris Coleman was there, yeah.
Was there.
Yeah, they've had a few down the years. Laurie Sanchez has managed them, but yeah. Last question then. Let's go for. I'm just looking for. Let me pick a random player. Who were our three strikers that started the game that day?
So that season would have been Court.
Yeah.
Marcus Gale?
He played, but I don't think he'd have played up front.
He was still there at that time. Shipley wasn't there. Connolly wasn't. I can't think there one that had been. Who was in that? Hartson? No, Hartson would have been there, would he?
Hartson would have been there, but he didn't play. He wasn't involved.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
It was Carl Court, Jason Ewell, and Carl Lieburn.
See, Joe, I was wondering with Jason Ewell. I sometimes forget when he left to go to Charlton. It's so difficult when you go back to that relegation season, and then of course the League One season, the Championship season, because of all the stuff around, obviously that thing happening. You sort of lost track of players. Players left, didn't they, so quickly?
Yeah.
You sort of lose track. I don't know about you, but I've been watching summers. A lot of people have been loading old games on. I've been watching a lot of the old Wimbledon games, and there was the other day. I think it was what we're doing now. I think on this day, and we beat Arsenal 3-1 at Highbury.
Oh yeah.
And I remember it Holsworth scoring, and then Robbie Earl with that lob.
Yeah.
Over Seaman. And I don't think it was the same season, but I remember we did the same thing at Anfield, didn't we? Scored a similar sort of lob from a further out.
Yeah.
And you just look back at that team and you think, what a team. I think you don't realise now how good a team that was until you now see where we are. Do you know what I mean? That was a hell of a team that year.
It was. And I'm sure Robbie Earl has got great memories of lobbing Seaman. But on that note, that is time for today. So, no games to look forward to, because we don't really look forward to the League Cup. So we'll do that. We'll do the Sunderland game next week. And that is it, really. So the only other thing I was going to mention, which was the thing I was going to mention last week, but I forgot, was Love Sport, for who we did a radio show with for a couple of years. They're gone.
Yeah.
They no longer exist. They have finally, after COVID made them go into whatever what was their version of furlough? What's the name of it? Mothballed. That's it. They mothballed their operation, and 9 months later they realised it's not going to. I mean, realistically, was it ever really a viable product?
No,
we knew live commentaries or anything like that.
Yeah, we knew when we obviously were going there. The stuff don't get wrong, the fan stuff they did. We met some really good people like Jay Watson and Aaron Ball, who still does a lot of stuff for us now. So we were fortunate to meet some really good people who've gone on. Yeah, who've gone on to Jake Watson now is what TalkSport, isn't he? And Aaron's on the BBC Radio 5. It always makes you chuckle with Aaron because I was listening to the radio the other day and I could hear his voice straight away. I'm like, where is he today then? And then I just messaged him and go, I've just started doing the radio. And he goes, do I sound all right? And I was like, no, you're rubbish.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But he's great, to be fair, Aaron, on that. And he gets chucked everywhere.
He's been to Norwich a lot, which is a hell of a journey to do.
Well, his local club is Wickham. That's what he loved. He does Reading. He did Reading Ladies, but Wickham's quite close. Yes, sorry, let me rephrase that. He did the Reading Ladies match day announcer, but Wickham is.
I'm not sure that's any better. Sorry.
I don't know. What I would say, Aaron did the best sort of poem sort of thing for when he was at Plough Lane. Did like a 30-second. It's excellent. It really is. Aaron really likes. Really got a lot of time at Wimbledon, and he gets it. And if you haven't heard it, have a search for it at Radio 5. I think he tagged it onto his Twitter. It's a really powerful little 30-second piece.
Yeah, just agree with that. Check it out on Twitter. As you mentioned, yeah, really great to get to know Aaron and Jake, and that in our time at Love Sport, but the station has now gone and is no more. So there it is. Such is life. There are many businesses at the moment that are going out of business and lots of jobs being lost. It's a very, very bad time. But we're still here for the time being every week, trying to inject some positivity. I think I failed massively on that score this week, so I do apologise. I tried. It's hard. Let's try and think of some positives. It is the weekend, and this weekend you can enjoy absolutely nothing. So go for a walk. At least you can still do that. Go for a walk. Enjoy the beautiful British country, or at least their parks. You can find something to do, I'm sure. Go and have a nose around Wimbledon Common, go through to Surbiton, try and get down to Surrey. There are options. Failing that, go to the supermarket.
Do you know what, very quickly, Wednesday night, I literally turned on the TV and I went onto Twitter and someone was talking about Manchester Derby. I'm like, Derby? What's going on? I didn't even know it was a League Cup semi-final. How distant I'd come with football. Oh, I'll watch that. 5 minutes. I'm like, this is boring. You can't have a derby with no atmosphere. It just doesn't work.
I made the point on Tuesday when I saw Spurs were playing Brentford, that it was just a one leg. I was like, what? Like semi-final with 2 legs. It's not fair to have a semi-final at the home ground of one of the teams, although Man City were the away team and they won, I suppose. I just thought, I suppose it doesn't really matter when there's no fans in the crowd. I suppose that's probably their argument. But yeah, shocking. Anyway, but it is what it is for the time being, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Stu, for joining me this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will speak to you again next Friday. In the meantime, I will say, Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, 2 + 2 = 4. Speak to you in a bit.